So, do we live in a culture of busyness where everyone just prides themselves on whatever title they have and, just spending time? We've created a society where being busy is treated like a virtue, while genuine rest is seen as laziness and it's destroying us. But also, people tend to hate on those who are living lazy lives if they are not well off. So, suppose you were the fantasy prince, the apex of romance fantasy that is written for women, or some rich guy, whatever, then you're fine. But if you're someone who's not financially well off, your daddy was not rich, then everyone hates you. If you even try to live a balanced life, oh no, that's not gonna work out. Well, women would be no doubt getting their own nonsense, but this would even more apply to you if you're a guy. And often so, that is the only way. What you do is how you are evaluated, or whatever you have. Anyhow, I noticed something disturbing about how we talk about our daily lives. When someone asks, "How are you?" the expected answer has become busy. Although the expected answer that I would be thinking of is that you are so well, even if you're not. You have to say that you're so great. Now you might say that I'm not, but that's probably going to be the last conversation you had with that person, and they might be like, "Oh my god, I hate that person now." Something like that. And people say it with a strange mix of complaint and pride, as if their exhaustion is a badge of honor. But a good question would be that, do they even have a choice? Because suppose they might be forced into this situation, maybe not their life depends on it, but they feel more secure. Because in our world, there is no security. The only security is trying to get more money. And everyone's just trying to get more money. Although money is a total make-believe, we spawn on this dirtball spaceship, and basically everyone around you is just like, "Yeah, we got some rules for you. We got some stuff we have. It's like, that's my dirt. And if you don't agree with me, then I punch your face in," something like that. And you're owed nothing. And that's pretty much it. We glorify people who work 60-hour weeks. I think people might not even care, right? Suppose they don't see you working, then they don't care. They only care about your results. And I suppose the easiest way to look good would be to take credit for other people's work. So even when it's obvious, you're gonna still celebrate like, "Oh my god, that CEO is so good." All they do is just chat on Twitter, but oh my god, they are doing so many cool things, right? They are a genius, man. Praise entrepreneurs who hustle 24/7. Interesting rise of the entrepreneurs. Now, I don't think this is happening out of desire, primarily, but out of necessity. Like, let's suppose you can get a job, or you cannot get a job that have much of a future, right? And that would be the job of most people. And in this context, entrepreneur doesn't really exist as something that, I'm just gonna make a living on my own, but as a way to like, maybe I can escape this race. And that's kind of messed up. That essentially the biggest dream of our time is not that, I'm going to become an astronaut, or I'm going to become a fireman or something. Now, here I'm not critiquing the exact thing you want to be, but the exact thing most people that's my impression, want to be in our world is just out of this game. Or very least, this is my impression. I look down on anyone who prioritizes free time or rest. Yeah. There's a decent chance that people will hate you for it. I suppose. Especially if you're possibly on their team. It's like, "Oh my god, you should be like working hard." Like, are you working hard? No, I'm not. Even our vacations have become performative. Vacations? We feel pressure to fill them with activities and post about them on social media to prove we are making the most of our time. I don't know. I'm not really keeping up with that. But I did see somewhat of a rise of entertainment that is kind of masquerading as education. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. Yeah. I would say that in most cases, you need to pique the interest first, and then people will listen. Even if you try to say the right things, but possibly you're negative or boring, people will not care. Yet my point here would be that there seem to be an abundance of activities that people partake in that are possibly can be considered positive, but not priority and not effective. So this kind of has a double-edged effect that people might feel like that everything they do might have to have some kind of utility, but they might not even care about it being as useful as possible. So essentially, they're just kind of busy with a vague alibi of like, maybe this is gonna be useful. And suppose you are doing this, then it would be more effective than if you're just going for enjoyment. Like, I'm not saying that you can have things that are effective and fun, but suppose you just want to go for fun, just go for that. And if you want to do something effective, just go for that. Positive would not matter. Only priority does. What's worse is that we internalize this so deeply that we do have genuine downtime. We feel guilty about it. It's not just a mindset, but people are really pressured these days. We can't just sit and exist anymore. We have to be productive every waking moment. But again, this is not just a mindset, because let's say that someone is poor, or possibly they don't feel secure enough. Then no doubt they feel the need, or possibly they might just be overwhelmed with negative feelings that they might want to escape from by being busy, or they try to be positively busy all the time. But the thing is, it could be really difficult. It's probably not feasible to always be effective. Like, I'm just gonna hustle all day long. Yeah. For how long? We've turned rest into self-care and then commercialized that too, making it another item on our to-do list rather than a natural part of being human. And I saw a list that apparently the ideal amount of relaxation could be like between like at least 2 hours, but probably at least 5. And I guess the modern mindset would be like, oh yeah, you know what I thought to myself? It was like, oh yeah, this means that, I could have like 2 hours of relaxation per day. And that's probably gonna be as close, as good than like doing 5 hours. You can optimize relaxation. The result, we are seeing record levels of burnout, anxiety, depression. We are losing our ability to form deep relationships because we are too busy. We are constantly exhausted but can't sleep because our mind won't stop racing with all the things we should be doing. Alright? The irony is that this constant busyness isn't even making us more productive. The regular Joe these days spends a lot of time on social media, seemingly, and they think a lot about social media. And they might not be, effective is the right word, truly. We are not machines that can run continuously. We are humans who need genuine rest and unstructured time to think, create, and actually live. Yeah, but thing is, especially with the direction our world is heading, there's gonna be more and more and more and more and more pressure on the workers, so they keep everything up. So what? So someone just has some paper like, oh yeah, this is something that entitles me to your time. Or, I got some shiny rocks. That means you should do what I say. And you don't get to not care, right? You don't get to call dibs on things because that's against the rules. Maybe it's time we stop wearing our busyness like a badge of honor and started seeing it for what it really is, a societal sickness that's robbing us of our humanity. Well, the thing is, you can do what you want, but others will fucking hate you for it. Unless this is something that they possibly respect. But generally speaking, outsiders are not cherished. The needs, supposing they can continue to be needs even, could be a good example here. Let's say that these are the people who are kind of like checking out, right? I mean, they might even have money. And society hates them for it. But also, who's selling and who's forcing this busy culture, right? Because always the boss tells you to work hard, and then everyone just forced to work even harder. I only wish this was only a mindset problem. This busyness is literally destroying our planet. One thing that's common among human culture that lasted sustainably for millennia is the sheer amount of time not working. Yeah. The only animals that work all the time are the slaves in history. Not even the peasants. The peasants, well, what? Just throw out some seeds and do nothing most of the time. Hanging out, talking, making art, telling stories. The invading European colonists couldn't believe it. You don't know that all of the ancient Greeks, Romans, Europeans, Egyptians, etc. only lived on average to 30, but also average, right? So there were people who lived long, and then were the people who did not. They also didn't just hang out. There was nearly always wars to be fought for people who would now call dictators. The fact most people can sit in front of a TV or a phone, home works be well to them. I think it's not busyness, but the meaningful communications and relationships that we miss. Protestant work ethic, work harder, Jesus hates you. Yeah, but this is a little different because some people are told to work hard. Others tell others to work hard. It's pretty psychotic, burning themselves out for nothing. They'll be on their deathbeds wishing they didn't waste so much of their life frivolously chasing carrots on a string. Yeah, but do they have a choice? So let's suppose you have this realization right here. But let's suppose you can't opt out. What are you gonna do? So at this point, you can either rope or pitchforks, right? But pitchforks will get you arrested. We're slaves. Yes. Yes, we are. And I'm surprised others can see that, and anyone who goes against the establishment gets put on display so the rest of the slaves don't misbehave and follow guidelines. Humanity is sick, and the sickness is of the ignorant prevails among the worst viruses. You gotta keep in mind that suppose we had democracy, but we don't. No one has it. Because democracy would mean, and if we really embrace capitalism, that would mean that people are self-interested. So, there you go. You would have people voting their self-interest every election, if they could, right? So they would vote for the money, vote for the stuff of those who have more than them. So, you would have equality every election. You would not have power imbalance at all. You can't have it. It is literally impossible. It is self-evidently impossible. Imagine if the entire game was flipped. Let's say that I owned everything, and I see what money is. You guys don't have any money. I have all the money. Now work for my money and rent out my stuff. And if you don't like it, then I guess I just have to get violent with you. So welcome to Dirt Spaceship Earth. Because you know what everything is? It's violence. If you disagree, if you opt out, if you try to dip on things, others will get violent. The average Joe who spawns here are taught to believe the right things, and they are entirely made to be and set up to be a lifelong slave. And if they don't like it, I guess, I suppose they can choose the rope. But even the rope is against the rules of Jesus, because a good person would be my slave. And of course you getting violent would be a no-no. So that's it. Play by my rules, don't make your own games. Yep, I could not give a fuck what everyone else is doing. Just because society has expectation for normal people doesn't mean I have to follow them. Why do I have to be normal? Yeah, what is even normal though? It's certainly not gonna be authentic. Also, it's just kind of an expectation of what you have for others. Possibly, or you might pride yourself on being normal. It just means nothing. It basically just changes based on the circumstances it's being used. So you would have to be at least normal, but you can be exceptional too, right? But if you're not exceptional, and suppose you're not normal, then you're gonna be the other things. It's not the only way to be happy, and in fact, I struggle to see how a lot of normal people are happy, but I won't ever tell them to change their lives. That's the difference. Now, if we went with the definition of normal, that possibly people's behavior is gonna fall into a certain range, then I guess you can call that normal. But that would not mean that behavior outside of that range is wrong. So I suppose in this case, we would be making the claim that it's common, right? So you might say that most people have brown hair, so brown hair is common. But would you say that brown hair is normal? And if you have blonde hair, then you're wrong. And if you have ginger hair, oh boy, don't get me started. I actually don't mind being seen as lazy. I value rest and downtime, but yeah, but others might be trying to screw with this. Like, let's suppose, for sake of argument, that the young people said that, the game is a little rigged today. Why not just make some hippie communes, right? Just have like, maybe like tens of millions of people, many, many, many millions, just living in hippie communes, man. Just have fun, right? Everyone else has this figured out. And guess what? They will be absolutely despised. They will be hated. If you're the guy who's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play some games and maybe like work just as much as I need and maybe live a modest life, yeah, people will not like that. My mom likes to play the lottery, and I told her if she wins, give me the money, and she asked what kind of work I do with it, and it said none. She said she wouldn't give me any money. These people are broken. The problem is worse than you think. The entire monetary system has inadvertently though, been designed around the objective maximum employment, right? I mean, this was the fundamental flaw, that the peasants were lazy. They didn't work that much. Especially keep in mind that the OG humans might have to spend many hours a day just foraging or hunting, but farming was simple. So you might see, and you can see that, especially Europe, I can only attest to Europe here. I guess this could be just my limitation, that there could be a lot of culture around just how you're spending your free time. And possibly people weren't even that efficient, that effective in working, because there wasn't even like a big rush to work. And lately been argued that the internet is an opportunity cost, and there could be other solo activities that could be opportunity cost. But the biggest problem would be time. And not just time, but like people also possibly move around, right? So instead of like essentially just being born in a place and probably just being buried there, people might just move around for better jobs, but also possibly along with travel, they might be spending like 60 or possibly more hours per week at work. And they will no doubt have other responsibilities as well. So even something that could be very accessible, like possibly video games, you could easily hear that, they reached like late 20s or like early 30s and they just kind of dropped out, right? Because like they couldn't even find the time to play a match of video games. We should be giving people unconditional income so they can purchase all the good machines produce on our behalf. Instead, we are using monetary policy to create jobs as an excuse to deliver wages to people. But you should not be creating jobs. And this is the dumbest thing. And you hear this like all the time. It's like, oh yeah, just creating jobs. But yeah, but you should be trying to eliminate jobs as much as possible. If it doesn't need to be done, then what's the point? Instead of creating incomes to motivate production and allow consumers to purchase goods, we are creating jobs to keep workers employed. We use central banks to prop up the labor market larger than it actually needs to be. This wastes resources and people's time. Yeah. The global economy, due to absence of UBI, has become one giant make-work jobs program. Yeah. It's been argued before that the UBI these days is the jobs. Well, no doubt people get exploited too, but especially if like you having some kind of a government position, that's kind of a UBI right there. And jobs can be extremely inefficient, especially if you're like, getting in with connections. Know that some people possibly are just work to the bone, and you might see that, you have like Bob here, who's single-handedly essentially just paying for the entire company. You have a 100-man company, and possibly they have some connections, but Bob alone is the one who is generating the value. He's getting the work done. Of course, he's not seeing it, and they don't want Bob to have all the money. But suppose Bob is really doing the heavy lifting here. Know that you might argue that others do something, but essentially, all jobs exist to force people to be exploited in a way. And the giant difference is, and the stark contrast compared to what it was in the past, is that possibly most people, if they could, they kind of work for themselves, right? But that is not the important part. The important part is that they want to capture their own value. Because let's suppose that you work for a self-interested agent, then they will capture all the value they can from you. And you might have a choice. Because let's suppose that your only way of capitalizing on what you know is getting a job, but every single job will try to take as much as they can from you. So, let's even suppose that you might be able to make $1 million, right? Per year. But in order to have the chance of making that money, you have to work for someone. But let's suppose this role is highly contested. So they're kind of like driving down the cost of labor. So you're going to get as little as possible. Humanity is being paid to engage in useless toil. We could be enjoying much more leisure time, but we have chosen not to by refusing to implement a UBI. I might expect to see UBI even less, especially for younger people. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be UBI. There's not going to be a UBI, but possibly there's going to be a earlier retirement or something. Because partly the powers of the be might want to keep the workers busy, but also they mostly want to live off their labor. But fortunes need to be hoarded, and worker bees need to keep on working more and more. After all, these fortunes don't get made on their own. But you gotta keep in mind, what the heck is fortune? I'd say that you have a bunch of money, but money's utterly worthless. It has no value. You might hold a bunch of gold, and can you imagine how stupid that is? Can you imagine how stupid humanity is? Like, you just have gold, right? Shiny rocks. Utterly useless in most cases. But we hoard them because they are somewhat scarce. And then you have some kind of bullshit system. It looks like a pyramid. People are taught the right things. Also, kind of comically, those who have at the top always like possibly dress fancy, but possibly the most comical part is that they often have just stupid hats. It's like, oh, look at me, I got the crown or something. No, look at my hat. This shows that I'm better than others. And in most cases, people believe in their own self-interest. They feel, then justify. They feel, then rationalize. They feel, then explain. Being busy is not the same as being productive. The need to be busy leads to busy work, which is, by definition, not productive. Yeah, this is kind of comical that you might see, like the startups, I suppose, would be the common example, but you can even have just one guy disrupting massive companies because they are useless. There were possibly some value at the start, but then it grew and grew, and essentially just kind of a UBI program, in a way, a stupid one at that. And possibly, it's just completely a lost cause. Like, how are you going to fix that? Suppose you had like 1,000 people, and like most are just for show. In fact, they're kind of getting in the way. They're all just trying to be busy to kind of justify their existence there. And this is all stupid because a normal person would not be wasting their time. But you have to be there because that's how you stay alive. And just imagine how many guards we have that really don't serve that much of a purpose. You might even see like a security guard in the supermarket. They are guarding the food, right? It's like, yeah, but what if you had like a society where people don't have to waste their time guarding the food? Or if you have some hotshots, then they might even have like possibly many dozens of security guards. It's like, yes, but possibly wouldn't it be better if you lived a life where you wouldn't need that many security guards? So what is my point? It is a terrible use of resources. People are not utilized They are not properly educated, but most jobs are utterly pointless. So it doesn't matter, but it is what you need to do to survive. I can't think of a single mammalian species that doesn't spend a good portion of their time resting. If you just look at animals, then most of the time, they are not really doing much. Humans are the only outlier. Well, some humans who are forced into this. Like, if you just look at the culture over time, especially before new kind of Christianity, especially Rome, it could be interesting. Now, no doubt, people were dicks, but they also didn't pride themselves on working hard. In fact, only the slaves were, I'm not sure, prided on being worked hard. But, other people just kind of prided themselves on not working. I don't understand why we prioritize and encourage constant movement, productivity. I think it is just force, right? So suppose could you afford to just completely chill out, right? It's like, are you just going after the next job title that doesn't even matter? But I would say in that case, like, suppose you don't have to do a thing, but you're just doing it because you just love it, right? Then it's great. But most likely that is not the case. You are forced. Cats are insanely impressive predators, and even they spend most of their time napping. Oh my god. I wish I was a cat, man. I feel ideologically drawn to the cat lifestyle. I'm disabled with severe chronic fatigue and lethargy, so being incessantly active isn't something I can really even do. I've been shamed for it my whole life. Now, this is a very key takeaway. So, you might be able to not do what is, whatever, how it's called, like you might call it normal, but others will hate you for it. Unless you're exceptional. Then you're great. People ask what I do during my free time and treat me like I'm lazy. I'm lazy when I say I usually lounge around my bedroom. What? Is that it? Huh? I'm made to feel less than because I'm not constantly productive? Yeah. I think I'm poisoned too. I like to do things, but I don't like being forced to do things, if that makes sense. Although I suppose I'm not the only one who have this peculiarity. Agree, at least in Western countries, being born into a rat race without knowing it, I'm pretty sure that this is what capitalism does on the long term, alas. So yeah, this is probably not culture. Most likely, you don't have a choice.